The Daughters Challenge is next up in the rotation for Master Kingsfall, and it's up on the list right next to... sorry. I meant to say it's next to Golgoroth. Quick edit here, I just realized I didn't actually mention what the challenge is. I just talked about what the master mechanics are, so before that, let me quickly explain. The challenge is simple. You cannot break the plate chain once you have stepped on a plate for your runner. So once you step on any plate, you have to make the planes appear in existence, quote-unquote, for the encounter, and you cannot get off until your runner is done. If you get off, and it says the plates leave this existence, that's a challenge fail, and, well, you gotta restart. That is the only requirement here. You don't need to make it so that only one person gets on each plate per round or anything like that. You can get on as many times as you want. You just can't break the chain. So once you get on, you got to commit. Make sure you use healing aids or whatever to survive, healing rifts, etc. Whatever you got to do. Don't break the chain until your runner says get off. That's literally it. It's very simple. The only thing you're going to have to worry about is just damaging the wizards and controlling the ads so you don't get flinched to a different continent. Alright, so moving on to the rest of the video. It's not quite as boring, and it's not quite as unimaginative, but it's basically the same fight as normal, with only one difference. One major difference, anyway. And that is, it's Barrier Knight champions on the plates instead of a regular knight. Now, there's also a factor of the shields of the enemies, in this case being Centurion's arc shields, and the enemies just hit you harder because it's Master instead of normal. However, this entire encounter is trivialized by one weapon. That weapon is Arbalest. Arbalest is not a very good guy. He will stomp on your arc shields. He will suplex the barrier champion shields. Hell, I'm surprised Arbalest doesn't just one-bang both bosses through their shields and just end the encounter immediately outright. All jokes aside, if you're tired of using Arbalest because it just trivializes everything, or maybe you don't have one, then there's a couple of other options. I would recommend Pointed Inquiry or Doom Chelchis. They have both scout rifles in the energy slot, both void. Doom Chelchis comes from Kingsfall, so that's a little bit of RNG, unless you've crafted it already. And then Pointed Inquiry comes from the Throne World, and you can just farm this out with Wall Springs, Lost Sectors, etc. gradually over time, pretty easily. If you've been playing since Witch Queen launch, you probably already have one of these. And they both roll adaptive munitions, which says the weapon adapts its damage output to be more effective against energy shields that don't match its damage type. So in this case, it's void. If it shoots anything else that's not void, it adapts and does more damage to those shields, which includes barrier shields for barrier champions. So basically, it's a mini Arbalest. It's not going to one-shot all shields off instantly, but it will do a damn good job of it. I believe last season, or the previous season that Anti-Barrier Scout was available in GM Glassway, it was popping servitor shields in 2 shots. That's it. 2 shots in a GM. Keep in mind, this is when you're neg 25 on late level. So, it's pretty damn good. I'm sure it'll do just fine on Master if you want to use something like this instead of Arbalest. And that's really all you're going to need for shields between these two. If you happen to be worried about arc shields for some reason, you could run just about any arc weapon that you'd like to just break those shields off the Centurions. SMG, pulse rifle, hand cannon, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can strip them pretty easily. And then if you have like a bonk hammer on your team, just one hammer, boom, dead. They're really not that troublesome. You just got to watch out for the Axion darts. Okay, so let's talk about damage. For damage, yes, rockets did get nerfed. No, they are not useless. You can still use rockets on Daughters. It's fine. The only difference now is pre-patch, you probably fired 2, maybe 3 rockets, and it killed a wizard, you know, from each player. Now, you're going to have to fire maybe 5 or 6 and fire them to kill a wizard. It's not that big of a deal. It's less damage, yes, but you can still kill them with rockets just fine. And, you know, if you happen to hate Screen Shake, which most people do, rockets gives you that kind of easy out where you don't have to, like, actually scope in and then kind of, like, head peek and jiggle peek and look for the div bubble to try to shoot your linear at. So, you can still use rockets. I just want to make one recommendation aside from the generic rocket strat, which is, you know, Galley, Sleepless, or Hothead, which a lot of people can't get anymore, and that is Bump in the Night. So 1, it's craftable, and you can still get it. 2, this is really, really good on Warlocks, and let me explain why. So as you already probably know, Warlocks have stupid synergy with Fusion Grenades and Starfire Protocol. This rocket launcher can roll Demo and Chill Clip. So Demo, if you're not familiar, basically when you throw a grenade, it'll auto-reload your gun, in this case, a rocket shot. And with Demo, pairing with Chill Clip, direct hits with the top half of the magazine cause detonation that slows nearby targets. Now, we don't care about the slow, we care about the detonation. So when it detonates and shatters, it does more damage, And when you do more damage, when you're combining with Starfire Protocol in a well or a rift, reloading your rockets with your fusion nades, you continuously just keep getting fusion nades back and forth, back and forth. And what you can do with this is basically go fusion nade, rocket, fusion nade, rocket, and you don't have to reload while you're doing this combo. Now, after the second rocket, the demo has a small cooldown on it, but you can bypass this by just switching guns and then switching back to your gun. So, for example, I have Ikelos SMG and Bump of the Night on. I would just go rocket, grenade, rocket, switch to Ikelos, switch back to my rocket, grenade again, which you'll have back because of the damage you're doing to the boss. So you continuously fire grenade, rocket, grenade, rocket, grenade, rocket, literally until your ammo's out or the boss is dead. And the great part about Master is, for this, is once you kill the first boss wizard, the cycle repeats, and during the first and second half, you can kill the barrier champions that spawn on each plate, finish them, and then make ammo off of them for heavy with Aeons, and then you can have a bunch of heavy bricks laying around everywhere for you to refuel your ammo, which normally you couldn't do on normal because there were no champions to finish. Here, you can just put on Aeons between DPS phases, make the ammo, reload your rockets, or your linears, whichever you prefer to use, and then repeat the process. But I will say for Titans/Hunters, you could just use any rocket that you'd like. I thought I'd mention Bump in the Night just for Warlocks because it has really, really good synergy. Other than that, just keep to, Hothead, Sleepless, etc. Now, let's talk about the other thing. Linears. Linears you could use instead of rockets, and ideally, you'd like to use Cataclysmic. You could use Reed's Regret with the whole Supremo Maker strat, but I feel like people who are already doing that strat don't really need to understand how this encounter works. They're not new players, etc. They're already adjusted to Master and have dedicated fire teams, experience, etc. So, I want to recommend Solar because it's new player friendly, it's easy to understand, it's easy to execute. What else more do you need? So, for Cataclysmic, ideally you want to have 4 times the charm and bait and switch. 4 times the charm will give you free ammo out of thin air, so why wouldn't you want that in an encounter like this? And of course, bait and switch gives you nutty damage over time for a ton of shots, for a ton of damage. If you don't know what it does, here's it on screen. Bait and switch, deal damage with all equipped weapons within a short amount of time to give this weapon a damage boost for an improved duration. So basically, you just use 2 other weapons that are fast firing, go shoot on the wizard, and then switch to Cataclysmic, and then start firing your bait and switch linear at the div bubble or the wizard's head, and you do a ton of damage. Now, the reason that I'm recommending Solar out the gate is because whether you use Well, Bonk Hammer, or Caliban's Hand Hunters in this encounter, all 3 can very, very, very easily make solar wells with their melee or grenade. And then once you make a solar well, you get your damage going, Font of Might activates, and you start getting even more damage out with your linears than normally. When you're up on a pillar with well in middle, like people normally are, opposite of the wizard, to shoot them, you don't have that benefit because you're up basically in the air, and you're obviously not making solar wells on the enemies on the ground, you're just ignoring them. But on Master, when the bosses have a chunkier health bar, and stuff hurts more, etc., you're going to want, a little extra oomph in your damage, because maybe your damage normally isn't quite enough, depending on your fire team's light level. So having free solar wells out the gate is going to make a big difference to the damage on the bosses. In case you're wondering what I would use to make these solar wells very, very easily, so right here, you have Melee Wellmaker, Powered Melee Command and Final Blows spawn elemental well. So again, Bonk Hammer, Celestial Fire, or Caliban's Hand with the Precision Knife. So easy to make solar wells with that. And then on top of that, if you want to do it with grenades, you just put on Elemental Ordnance, which says defeating a commander with a grenade, and then it spawns an elemental well. So again, Warlocks with fusion nades, easy free kill on a Thrall or an Acolyte, and then Hunters can also make a grenade kill with basically any grenade, and it'd be easy to make a well that way. Quick little edit, I meant to say Proximity Explosive Knife for the Hunter. Basically, you throw it at the enemy or on the ground, and if they're near it, they go boom, they die, instant solar well with your Caliban's Hand on a Hunter build, and that'll make a solar well. Now, if you're not standing directly next to that enemy that died, that's totally fine. You could still use Seeking Wells on any of your armor mods, and Seeking Wells will make that solar well come to you. So you could just be standing there doing damage to the bosses, and if any of the characters on your fire team kill something to make that well, the well will just magically come to you. You don't have to move at all, just keep shooting the boss. And that's all I got for you guys today. Other than the barrier champions, there really isn't a whole lot of change in this fight. You just need to go fast, kill the berries, make ammo, and then shoot the bosses on the ground instead of the middle. Really not all that complicated, and once you get maybe 1 or 2 runs in on Master if it's your first time, it'll be pretty smooth, I feel like. So that's it. If you have any questions about the run or the strat, let me know. I'll try to answer in the comments. Other than that, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It does help the channel. Also stream daily on Twitch. Link in the description below. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.